fine. We'll do it out because I have a copy here. We're good. Thanks for being here. Would you like to? You're welcome to be here. Yeah, come. So we'll just wait like 2 minutes. Or something.
We're going to wait 2 minutes. Enjoy.
Like that.
We're just going to wait for 2 minutes. Thanks, everyone.
Otherwise, yeah, exactly. No. You're part of this. Oh, okay. I think that mic is for you. So we're good if you're good?
We're good. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Concordia University's fourth space, and thank you for joining us for today's event, Cooperative Play with AI Ethics. Help situate you. We're streaming to YouTube. We are live, and we are located in unceded Indigenous lands in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. And here at Fourth Space, we work with our university community to mobilize knowledge, to co-create daily activities, examining research questions, projects in development here across the university. We're running today's event as a live stream Zoom meeting, so if you have any comments or questions, please pop them in the chat. And those of you joining us here in the space, if you'd like to participate, just let us know and we'll get a microphone to you so everyone can hear. With that, it's very much my pleasure to hang things over to PhD and candidate in communication studies and former Concordia public scholar, Scott DeYoung. Scott, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone, for also being here. It's a pleasure to see people in the space. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know, which is always exciting. For those unfamiliar, the plan here, I will introduce the two other people at the table beside me in a second, but just so you know the plan for the day, it's meant to be a casual networking style event with a little bit of kind of conversation to start us off in that. So what's going to happen is we're going to do kind of 2 interviews up here, and then we're going to play a game together up here. And we might invite some of you to come and join us for that. And then after that, there will be some games set up there that you can also try and talk with other people and play some games to check it all out. The game is meant to talk about ethical AI use. It's not just a random board game from my basement. It is a game that is being play tested and designed with a great team here led by Dr. Anne-Louise Davidson. Would you like to introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are?
Look, I just turned it off. Does this work? Yeah. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Anne-Louise Davidson. I'm a professor in education. I also direct the innovation lab at Concordia, and I do a lot of strategic advising on innovation. This is the result or the ongoing work from a study that I'm conducting with a team of 6 students funded by l'OVIA, l'Observatoire de l'intelligence artificielle et de l'impact du numérique en société. So the idea here is that we're trying to figure out what's the best way to get people into conversations to discuss the multiple aspects of ethics in AI so that we can join between the conversations that are theoretical around the criticism that AI is unethical and the people who actually act and play with AI on a daily basis that are dealing with personal bias, subjectivity, and also system bias. So.
Fantastic. And yes, I did technically get an introduction. My name is Scott. I'm a PhD candidate. I look at how we can use games to talk about media literacy issues, such as AI or disinformation and fake news or other things that I've worked with. But we're also joined to start off with the incredible Meaghan Wester, who is part of the Applied AI Institute here at Concordia University. You are the Responsibility AI or the Responsible AI Coordinator. Can you, just so everyone kind of knows, what does that mean? Who are you? Can you give a bit more context?
Yeah, well, thank you both, and thanks everyone for being here. So maybe a little bit of background. My background is in policy and media studies. So the hats that I wear at the Applied AI Institute are, I spread my time between different portions. So we're really staying up to date on different policies, different areas of regulation, and thinking about how that affects our work. And a big portion of my time is also working with our R&D team and figuring out how do we create protocols to do that in practice. And what are the questions that we ask, and what are some of the impacts in a given project, or some risks or some rights that we want to make sure that we preserve and think through. So that's a
Pretty good
overview.
summary. Yeah, it's a pretty good synopsis. So the first question I want to ask you is, I think, the obvious question, because your title is that you're the Responsible AI Coordinator.
Mhm.
What do you mean, or what do we mean, or what does the Applied Institute mean by responsible AI?
Yeah, that's a really good question, I think. So I've recently came across the UKI organization, which is an organization based in Toronto, and they do art installation to create uncertain terrain of governance. And they really prompt participants to think of responsibility as a form of taking agency in the world. And I really like this definition of responsibility, because often responsibility is kind of delocalized, and it's either located in the government institutions, or in the private actors, or larger organization. So thinking about our roles in taking agency. I'm sorry, I keep moving the distance of the mic. So that would be a part of what responsibility means. Another thing that is really important is that responsible and responsibility tends to, from what I've studied and witnessed, tends to circulate a little bit like the term democratizing.
Mm.
So we have the Musks of this world referring to democratizing as the access of the many, while we know that democratizing should mean the governance by the many. Similarly, responsible can be used in a very universalistic and non-committed forms of ethics. And so I think understanding that it circulates in different ways in different circles is really helpful. So now I know that I've given 2 pieces of background. At the Applied AI Institute, we are coming up with our 6 dimensions to think through different areas of question throughout the life cycle of an AI system. So I'll just go through the keywords, and if we have some more time, we can kind of hash them out a bit more. But we're making sure that we build systems that think upstream about the societal impacts that they will have on people, society, and institutions. Building systems that see bias as structural as well as statistical. We're really prioritizing free and open software, and thinking of our role in the protection and kind of our agency in promoting integrity and the protection of the environment. So we're at 4. 5 is staying up to date with the different areas of regulation, policy, declaration, and kind of navigating this really fast changing context. And lastly is promoting a culture of maintenance, and making sure that we're creating systems that are not technically obsolescent nor socially obsolescent. And by that, we mean that maybe the systems are customizable, and we ensure that there's the least vendor locking possible, and little social and technical choices that make sure that the system can be ongoing and they're not disposable.
Yeah, I really like the 6 dimensions there. And I know that you had a follow-up that you wanted to ask that.
Yeah, you said something about agency, and you kind of went on to another topic, and this is a big concept. I mean, how big of an issue is it? Because what it means to exercise agency is that you feel as though you can act on your environment, right? So I would say the majority of the population at this point who landed with a generative AI in their hands in 2022 felt as though this was a fun thing, but they completely misunderstand what AI means, what it does, what are its limitations, what are its strengths, how to use it responsibly, how to be ethical with it, and so on and so forth. And let alone people who don't even use technology, who just talk about AI and hear about the clickbait articles that lead you to the drama and the tragedies and the deep fakes and everything else that people can be scammed about. So how big of a leap is it for the majority of the population? I would even say that just, if you want to say, just the university population to start developing agency with AI. And how big of a mandate is that as someone who's was responsible of responsible AI?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I'd like to answer this type of question, like really rooted in the media studies shoes and training that I have. And I often encourage like friends or family or in informal settings when it always comes up when people are asking me, what do you think about ChatGPT? Or like, how do we make sense of this? How do we feel like we gain back a sense of control and a sense of agency over these things? And what I encourage and what I often remind myself is that we are constantly in relationship with different AI systems. And interrogating more thoroughly how we feel about the ones that we're really familiar with gives us a good indication of how we would like emergent ones to be governed. So really simple examples is how do we feel when we've been doom scrolling for 3 hours? What are and kind of investigating that this feeling. What is part of the design that really keeps me hooked? What are some of the frustrations that I feel? And similarly with like Google Map, why can't we check a box of, I want to take the scenic route. I want to take the route with less directions. I think encouraging people to trust their expertise and their experience with the algorithm is a really good first step into like reinfusing the agency into how we interact with AI systems.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of media literacy work talks about like critical interrogation of just like your own practice, which is kind of what you're getting to in these conversations of agency. And I'm recognizing that for like time, we're not going to talk about all these dimensions and all these layers here because we want to give a chance for anyone in the audience to ask questions, but also we have a second person to interview here today, and we'll bring you back up for those questions. But I have one more question that I think ties these 2 points together, which is there's a lot of anxieties, which you mentioned people come to you when they ask these questions themselves, but we have these anxieties in students. I'm teaching a class right now where my students are like worried all the time about like AI, can they use it, can they not use it, how can they use it? But educators, like, can they allow their students to use it? What's the lines of professionalism that are lost? Or even questions of anxiety around like our own futures and labor practices that come with it in sustainable systems. And so what do you say? I mean, you were kind of getting that, but how do we manage these realities where we're moving into a space where people working with AI is going to be an inevitable part for a lot of us? How do we manage these anxieties moving forward? How do we recognize them and move forward with them? Or do we even move forward with them?
Yeah, that's a good first question. Should we move forward with a system in a given space, in a given relationship? That should always be the first question. I recognize that sometimes we don't have the luxury of choice given the paradigm of release first, regulate later that we are currently in. I will also answer kind of at a diagonal to this question. I think that what makes me really passionate about the ethics of emergent technology is that we are constantly invited to reconfigure how we are in relationship with one another and in relationship with the technology in every space. So during the classroom is a really good example of that. In the last years, we've had, even in the last 10, 20 years, the advent of social media, but also in most recent years, Zoom and the place that it holds in the classroom. These are all examples of technologies that we've had to renegotiate the proverbial social contract of what is in a classroom. And I think in education, you probably have a better sense and a more underground sense of what that means. But it invites us to ask these questions of what it means to learn. What are our expectations of learning? And how does a certain AI system serve these goals that we've established? And how are they not serving these goals? And I think I recognize that in smaller class settings, it's doable to have these types of conversations. I also recognize that it's much harder in really big undergrad classes, and no technology exists in a vacuum. So we're dealing with these limitations. But I would say this is how I would go about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's this really managing of like expectations, but also use cases where even the subjects that you're working on, the use with AI is going to vary. I mean, I know, and Louise, you've talked about like the calculator as an example when we talk about like those trends in technology, about like the fears over the calculator ruining mathematics and the advantages that it provides today, which I think is what you're kind of speaking to. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have you swap with Jennifer, and then we'll have you both come back up to answer questions that the audience might have and or that you might have for each other. But I think you set a really great kind of starting point for us to continue the conversation. So thank you. So come on up. So I will also let you introduce yourself more formally just for the purposes of this also being audio recorded. But for the audience here, this is Jennifer Garard. She is incredible. We met last week, 2 weeks ago at the Avia, what was the name of the Avia event? Now I feel like silly.
It was the launch of the second level of funding, $15 million that Avia received from FRQ.
Yeah, and you're part of the think tank here at Concordia University in sustainability in the digital age. So can you speak a little bit to your role at that think tank, how that connects to our conversation here today?
Sure thing. So first of all, thank you so much for organizing this event. Thank you for having me. Welcome, everyone. So as Scott mentioned, my name is Jennifer Garard. I am the Deputy Director of Sustainability in the Digital Age, which is a think tank of Concordia University. My own background is really in environmental science. So I am not from the domain of AI. I'm someone who didn't study AI, but has learned a lot about it in more applied settings over the past years. So I started my professional career straight out of my PhD working at Future Earth, which is an international network of sustainability scientists. There's hubs in 9 countries around the world. One of them is here in Montreal, hosted by Concordia University. And back in about 2019, with a small team, we started this project looking at the impact of digital technologies. We really started having conversations around 2 key facts. So from the sustainability science community, we heard over and over, we don't need small incremental changes. We don't need, minor shifts in our day-to-day business as usual. We need to transform society if we're really going to tackle the climate crisis, biodiversity loss, the big, big challenges that we're facing. And at the same time, we knew that the digital age is already transforming society at an unprecedented rate and pace. And so really we started thinking about how can we steer those digital transformations that are happening towards a world that is more sustainable, more equitable, and also mitigating as many of the risks, because we were very cognizant of the risks. And I mean, these are things that we hear about very often: risks to, threats to democracy, risks to human dignity, the future of work. I mean, these are more and more, I would say, accepted. Less maybe spoken about back in 2019, but increasingly people, I think, are aware of those risks. Mm-hmm. And also the environmental impacts of systems like AI. And we went through this project. We developed the Digital Disruptions for Sustainability Research, Innovation, and Action agenda. And that's really what laid the groundwork and led to launching Sustainability in the Digital Age as think tank at Concordia University officially about 1.5 years ago. So, I would say that the idea of risks and that sort of risk-based lens to understanding digital technologies, and really prominently AI within that, I think it's top of many people's minds when we're thinking about the impacts of digital technologies, was sort of at the core as we started thinking about sustainability in the digital age, and really remains at the core of what we do today. And so I'm the deputy director today. And really what we try to do is sort of along three streams. So we try to facilitate research and innovation in that sort of digital innovation, sustainability space. We develop training and networks, and we try to advise on policy and standards.
Amazing. And I want to sit on that word sustainability because it's a big part of what you do, but Meaghan also brought it up as one of the core kind of pieces to the work that she does. And so when we talk about sustainability and AI, can you just, for those of us who are familiar or not familiar, can you kind of break down what that means?
Absolutely. So I think for me, there's really two axes there. So the first is really the environmental impact of AI. So like any digital technology, like any human activity, there is a direct environmental impact. And I would say in the case of AI, it is largely unknown. So we know that, for example, there is a huge impact on water usage. There's a huge impact, carbon footprint. A lot of AI today is being deployed in ways that are actually enhancing, accelerating consumerism and accelerating behaviors that are really harmful to the environment. So these are the types of concerns that I have in mind when I'm thinking about the environmental impact of AI. Maybe if I could give a really quick example. So a researcher named Sasha Lucioni has been really inspirational for myself. She's a machine learning scientist who really has been trying to investigate actually the impacts. And so she did a huge study, looked at ChatGPT-3, found that, the training cost for GPT-3 was about 500 tons of CO2 equivalent. So about the equivalent of 110 cars on the road for a year, which in the grand scheme of things, maybe isn't the hugest, but there is also a cost every single time that it's queried. And that is the unknown. That's sort of the part that it's very difficult to calculate. There aren't a lot of efforts. So my concern really lie in how little we actually know about the environmental cost. I would also note that, she did this study. It was released a few months ago. We're already on ChatGPT-4. I mean, a few people cannot hope to keep up with the pace that these technologies are evolving at. So I think we need a lot of work in that area. I would also say a second concern for me is really around data governance. So I think especially when we're talking about environmental data, the types of data that are really helping to measure, monitor, understand what's happening in environmental changes, a lot of times we're looking at, data that belongs to Indigenous communities, data that is drawing on traditional ecological knowledge, or data about vulnerable communities, thinking about smallholder farmers, environmental defenders on the front lines. And when we're thinking about those types of sensitive data, I think a data governance framework is another connected concern. And then, of course, there's also opportunities. And I mean, I don't need to go into too much depth because I feel like I'm rambling on a little bit, but there are opportunities to leverage AI to actually really help advance progress towards tackling climate change, biodiversity loss, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, there might be space for that in the question period. But I love the split you did between kind of the ecological side and the governance side, because I know that Meaghan was talking to the governance side as well, and it's nice to kind of put that into a framing. And do you have a follow-up that you'd like to?
Yeah, there's another component. This is something that we often neglect, and part of it has been named by Meaghan in terms of people developing their agency. But one of the arguments I often serve to people is I always say, we give very powerful technologies in the hands of a majority of population without ever preparing them. And one metaphor I can give is, for example, people who want to be very generous to their grandparents and give them an iPhone for Christmas, and then they leave them and they go back to, their hometowns or their universities, and then their grandparents are confused. They call at night, they drop their passwords because they're written in a folder and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of user aspects that we don't really think about. If we had to think about one way to prepare people for the sustainable use of AI, I suspect that, many people will say, go beyond just using it as a website, especially when we talk about generative AI. People often use it as a new Google. So what else could we think about? Are there some components or some concepts that we need to think about to inform practice?
That's a really important question, and one that I do not have a complete answer to, but some ideas that I would have just, to maybe respond immediately would be, I think we need sort of a standard way to calculate the environmental impact, and then maybe actually have that labeled. So if you are going to query ChatGPT and you're using it as a Google, to actually say, well, you could have just used Google, just regular web search, and used, X amount less carbon or used X amount less water, and actually have that be transparent knowledge to consumers. Because I think that often people just don't know. As you said, people are using ChatGPT as Google, and they don't realize that there's actually a higher environmental impact associated with that form of knowledge generation, as opposed to a simple, or, not that Google is simple, but an old-fashioned web search. So I think that just transparent, available knowledge, but then associated with that, some sort of standardization of the way that that knowledge is produced is, I think, really important. Because I think right now what we're seeing is people quantifying that impact in very different ways, using very different methods of calculation. And that's also problematic, because then it makes it very difficult to compare across different options.
Yeah, if I can, it's kind of connected to that, but also some of the pieces you were talking before. If I'm going to play the role of a cynic for a second, because in working with students, a lot of the time, I also kind of get feedback from them about like, well, why should I care about these ethical practices if, these big companies are using it, or if other people are using it to get ahead? Don't I just have to use it to compete as well, right? And so when we talk about like sustainability and the larger implications, how do we, you mentioned a little bit how we make that tangible, but how do we translate how ethics relate to our own practices when we're thinking about the grand scheme of how they're being employed beyond just the framework of the rooms that we're in?
Wow, we're really going for the big
Yeah,
question.
I know,
Okay,
I
no,
know.
but this is fair. So full disclosure, I was really lucky to spend the last 2 days at Mila's AI, or Human Rights in the Age of AI conference. So I was hugely impacted by that. And one of my main takeaways was actually that I think that change needs to start with the private sector. So as much as I think individual users are important, and we need to put effort into education, training, understanding, awareness building, I think that the biggest impacts are coming from the private sector. And to ignore at least the environmental impacts, and to ignore that, having people be told over and over that, we need to switch to reusable straws and you're contributing to the, saving the environment, when, big corporations are emitting huge amounts of carbon every day. There's a little bit of a problematic concept there that I think we need to put in check. But I do think that the role of individuals is really important, also as consumers. So I think we have a voice as consumers, and we can call out those major corporations. But I think the information that individuals need isn't there at the moment. So I think a big part of it is actually, first of all, figuring out the information, packaging that in a way that individuals can own and understand, and then put to use in their day-to-day life, and then empowering those individuals to actually call for those bigger systemic changes that we need to see. I think, to me, those are sort of the steps that I would like to see.
I agree. I would love to kind of see those steps. I also promised you, Meaghan, that I wouldn't keep you on the hot seat each for more than 10 minutes. And so I do respect that space. So I don't know, Meaghan, if you want to come up and grab a seat with us here, and we have microphones that I think we can pass to the audience. If anyone in the room has questions that this is meant to be kind of a casual space. Or do you have like worries, anxieties, questions when it comes to AI and its ethics? This is a chance to ask that. And I realize that me doing that and not giving you that much warning means that some people are like nervous to talk. So perhaps I'll ask you both a question around governance while people in the room think of a question that they might want to ask, which is, you've both talked about governance in your roles, you from a more sustainability angle and you from the angle of responsible AI. And you mentioned a little bit how individuals, but how do we think about governance when we talk with, the students that are using it, the educators that are using it? How do we bring that into those conversations? What are the steps we should be taking to encourage that dialogue around the average user? You both have microphones in front of you, and I'm not gonna, now it's just like a who's gonna talk first situation. And I recognize that these questions that we're asking, and you have both recognized it yourself, they don't have like easy answers. Like this is an unfolding kind of dialogue. And so share your thoughts.
Yeah, there's a reason we're not racing to answer this question. I think it's a very complex one. I guess my first thoughts circle back to questions of internet governance. And so I think that's a very grounded example that we have international organizations that work through what it means to govern the internet and to maintain a free and open internet, what it means to collaborate between nations, to uphold the infrastructure itself, to uphold standards that make sure that the internet runs smoothly for all of us. It's also a landscape that has a lot of actors that operate above a national level. So the reason why I'm kind of reminded of this, and I often go back to this sphere, is that there are still a lot of areas in internet governance that are negotiated, that are complex, that are not settled, that are still up in the air. And so if AI and data governance builds on top of these technological stacks, and I think the governance also builds on top of that governance stack. So to circle back to the initial question, it's a complex landscape to communicate, and it's fair to hold that complexity and to not expect that we can learn it in very bite-sized pieces. It's more of an ecology, and to kind of be okay that we might get lost in the forest and only learn certain pieces until we have a fuller picture.
Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, so I want to pick up on that fuller picture because I think for me, a really big thing is systems thinking. It's something that we've talked about in environmental science for a very, very long time. And it's something that I think applies here as well. And I think that, encouraging education that trains that part of our brain to be able to think in systems from a very young age is something that we could absolutely be advancing today. And that would help, I think, tremendously in the field of AI governance, because it is such a complex landscape and it involves so many different facets and connects to different sectors, different industries, disciplines. I mean, here we are. I think, I'm not exactly sure of your background, Dr. Davidson, but, I think none of us are AI scientists developing algorithms, but here we are talking about AI governance. And I think it's just a signal of how broad that discipline has gotten. And I think systems thinking, from my perspective, is really a key critical thinking technique that we need to be thinking about maybe a bit more seriously in early education. And then I think also maybe shifting. So it's ironic because I talked about how, my own personal and our institutional entry point was really from this risk lens. I think actually switching, and again, I was very influenced by the past 2 days in the human rights discussion, but broadening that conceptualization of risk and maybe understanding from, for example, a human rights approach, or understanding different frameworks through which we can think about ethical AI beyond just focusing on the immediate risks, which always imply economic risks. And somehow those are on par with risks to, human dignity, on par with risks to, much more existential risks. And I think decoupling that is also going to be a really critical step in future governance frameworks.
No, I mean, systems thinking makes me think of the other project that you're working on. I don't know if you want to briefly talk about that, but after that, if there are any questions from the audience, the Fourspace will bring you a mic. So just flag them down and they'll bring you a mic. But do you want to just touch base on the systems thinking side of it?
Systems thinking is such an archaic term for many people. I remember when I arrived at Concordia, I was lucky enough to spend some time with the founder of the educational technology program. One of the founders anyway, his name was Gary Boyd, and he was a cybernetician. So one of those rare physicists who had studied cybernetics in times when that technology didn't even exist. They were hypothesizing that it existed. And I had spent enough time with Claude Lamontagne at the University of Ottawa, who was talking about perception. We had received a PhD from the University of Edinburgh in the 1970s in artificial intelligence. So at the time, it was all theoretical, and everything that was theoretical around AI was from a cybernetics posture. And as simple as it can be, the whole idea of teaching about ecosystems, that you don't exist alone, you always exist in conjunction with other aspects, is of essence, but that's not found everywhere inside curricula, and not in every province. So one of the things that we do with our research is we have a game, which is more of a serious game, less fun than this one. It sounds a little bit more like an assignment when we give it, and we try to use Scott's skill to facilitate it in a way where it sounds very fun and interesting. But we try to get people to map the system and to understand that not one aspect is detached, not one system component, not one variable. Persona that act inside the system are also not acting independently. And then the same thing for the ethical aspects of AI, which we use from a persona perspective rather than from a system perspective. So it's not about the designers of the system, but the people who have to interact with the system itself. So that's an invitation to fill up our form, which will give you the QR code to participate. But it's a very fun 4-hour assignment where you develop a lot of reflection, and we give $50 for it. So
There's the sell. There you go.
Yes.
As someone who has played it, it does feed into that ecological model that you're kind of touching base on in your own answer as well, Meaghan, that like idea that there's lots of actors involved in understanding the complexity of using AI ethically. And so it's a good tool for that. But nevertheless, we have all talked long enough. Is there anyone in the room, and not to put you on the hot seat, who has a question or a concern or a stress around ethical AI? I see a hand. I think they're going to come to you with a microphone. If there's online as well, you can type it in the chat.
Thanks for the discussion. My question is probably for everybody, but directed at a response I think that Meaghan gave. I appreciate the answer of like your definition of what it means to be responsible divided into different domains. But my question would be then, who's making these decisions of what it actually means to be responsible within each of these domains? And building off that, like how is accountability being embedded in that answer, essentially?
Yeah, thank you for your question. I think the accountability piece is a key one, and one that we don't have a clear answer on in terms of even with the emergent regulations, there are not for the moment clear institutions that would hold different people in the stack of AI development responsible for different aspects, and it's still ongoing. So that's a really important aspect, and I really encourage you to continue this thinking and to think that through. I think the 6 dimensions really stem from the need to parse through the types of question that we are asking ourselves as and now I'm now including myself as a practitioner. I think that's the first time that I'm doing that. But so like who will benefit from this system? Who will be impacted? How? If we make this technical choice instead of this one, what will it do? I recognize that there's no formal accountability in these types of questions, but that's how the 6 domains emerged. Let me know if I missed a question. Who's the we? The team of developers and I.
Did you want to add?
If I could just add, I mean, it's not even at all as complete of an answer. I think Meaghan did a great job just kind of fleshing it out. But one we working on it, and I don't really include myself in that, but one group of people who are thinking about this is actually coming from the UN. And I think that that's a positive signal that we're seeing these very large intergovernmental bodies starting to think more seriously about AI governance and the ethics behind those decisions. And so maybe just to point to two processes that are going on. So the UN High-Level Advisory Body just released their interim report. It is available for comment online. If this is something that interests you and you feel passionate about, I would encourage people to take a look and share your thoughts. They want to get stakeholders, different perspectives engaged in that process. And then the second is an ongoing process to develop a global digital compact. So I think Dr. Davidson alluded to, a social compact and Meaghan as well earlier on. And so now the idea is, we need a social contract for the digital age. The Global Digital Compact is a process that is also ongoing, also going through quite a few, different opportunities for stakeholders to make comments, to submit written inputs as well. Also available online. I don't have the websites handy, but I'm sure if you Google it, maybe don't chat GPT, we'll save that carbon footprint a little bit. But these are opportunities to at least have a statement, make your voice heard at these higher levels. The Global Digital Compact is slated to be launched this coming September at the UN Summit of the Future. So that's a step to watch out for, I would say.
Yeah, and just to the point of like making your voice known, I think it was kind of touched on in the conversations we all had here, but like as users, as citizens, as people who are engaging with this tech, we are becoming in some capacity knowledge experts, at least in how we use it for our own lives. And so that doesn't, just because you might not feel like you're an expert on the technical side of these tools, or just because you feel like you're not an expert in being able to talk to, the grand theory that goes into ethical AI and responsible AI use, that doesn't mean that you don't have knowledge, perspectives, and opinions that matter in shaping how we design AI policy. Because at the end of the day, that policy is meant to reflect on us as users, because that's the tool is being used in our cases alongside other corporate cases, which need their own regulation beyond what I can talk about here. So just to in terms of giving your voice, don't be hesitant to give your voice, is the piece I'm saying there. And speaking of giving voices, is there another question or a build-off question in the room here today? I have a perfect segue. That is a-okay, because the plan is that we're going to play a game up here. I might invite, if anyone feels confident enough to be on camera, and we have 2 more people in the audience who want to come up and play with us now, we're going to play a bit of it here for like 15, 30 minutes, give or take, probably 15 minutes. And then we'll have 3 copies in the room. And the idea is that there's coffee, there's brownies, there is games, and we'll walk around, play some games together, talk a little bit about what are our worries about ethical AI, what are our worries about just using AI, what do we love, what do we hate, or just like tell me about your day. Maybe you had a really cool bowl of cereal this morning. I'd love to hear it too. But like, it's meant to be, let's talk about these things. And right now, I'm gonna kind of showcase this game project we're working on here. But before I do that, do you have something you want to add?
I'm going to remind everybody that because Scott has amazing game design skills, facilitation skills, but also is a researcher who gets into some explorations and tries to figure out like, how can we get people to talk about something with a rich and thick conversation? The purpose of the game was to get people to really reflect on the fact that when you are faced with a situation, you might act ethically, unethically, you might not act ethically throughout the board, but there might be some aspects of your work that is ethical. So it's meant to be a conversation around that to see when a user interacts with the AI system and has to do work. So we can memorize these conversations all we want, we can memorize the concepts and so on and so forth. But when we get out there in the field and we start to work, it's another set of games. So this is a whole game around coherence and thought and action.
Thank you. This is a very nice pitch, and thank you for the compliment. Yeah, so this game is meant to be used this game is not going to unveil the insights of ethical AI. It's not what we're doing here. This is meant to generate a conversation about ethical practice. If you want to slide your chair over just for our purposes. Sure, yeah, swing around the table. Let's go crazy. But the idea here is that we're meant to, by playing a game, when you play a game, you typically, especially a physical game, you talk with those around you. But games are also designed, kind of getting back to the conversation on systems, to reflect certain ideas or approaches or perspectives. And so this is a game that's meant to kind of just talk about the tensions that come with using AI or not using AI as a student. It's targeted for kind of high school undergrad students in terms of the design audience, but we're in the to use the game design world terms, we're in the beta stage, which means you might look at some of the rule books that are around the thing and you'll notice like a typo on them. I do apologize. I did not use an AI to edit the spelling for me and everything. But this is a game that we're in the process of kind of finalizing. And so I would love, that's why I also just kind of wanted you guys here to come play this game and check it out. But if the other people from the audience want to come up, we have enough spots for kind of 6 people to play at one time. Just for the nature of cards there. And we'll have 2 other copies available in the room for those who want to play. Obviously, you're welcome to try to use a rule book and figure it out for yourself using the stuff that are on the tables. Otherwise, come have a seat, come grab a spot. And I think you were here before, so you already know how to play, which means you're an expert. Nevertheless, the last time we played this game, it was also in the 4th space because we were doing a very similar event that was talking about how we can kind of play with ethical AI. And we played a competitive version of the game, which meant that we were all opponents. And today, we're going to play a cooperative version of the game, which is very similar to the competitive version of the game. But it means that we're working together. We are a team. We're a unit. We are all wonderful human beings functioning together to try to survive. How this game works, and I realize this table is large, and so I apologize to kind of you 3 for the reaching here, and we'll throw you things, okay? We'll do our best to throw you things. The idea is that all of us are interns, okay? We're imagine, or maybe you already are an intern, in which case I'm sorry that you have to relive that in this game. But we are all interns right now at a news company, okay? And we are tasked as a team of interns to write a set of news stories. So we have 3 news stories here. This one says the pigeon parade shuts down the main streets. We have to tell the world about that. This one talks about how the sun took a day off and there was global confusion, and so we have to write a story about that. And this one talks about a snowman convention which protests summer heat. And so these are just news stories that we've been tasked with writing. And it might be hard to see from where you're sitting, but the stories themselves are made up of kind of headlines, images, and like bodies of text, which we're representing in game form by little colored cubes. So headlines are green cubes, red cubes are like the images in a news story, yellow and blue reference like the summary of the story and the conclusion of the story. And so to complete a story, we have to gather all these cubes, as in we have to write these sections of the story and then produce it. Now, how do you get a cube? That's like the next big question that I'm sure you're all wanting the answer to. Well, there's 2 ways. These cards, which are the ones that are in front of you, this is how we work. Or we can choose to work with AI. So if you look at these cards, and I don't know if the camera is probably going to have a hard time picking it up for those in the room. Is that camera? Is that camera? It's really hard to tell from where you are. But the cards are 2-sided or 2-faced. So on one half of the card, it says work. On the other half of the card, it says feed. On your turn, when it's your turn, you play the card. And you choose to either work or you choose to feed the AI system. In our case, I used a gray bag today, but we also have a black bag to represent the black box of technology. For those familiar, the black box is the idea that we don't really know how the algorithms work. So if you choose to work, all that's going to happen is you're going to get a cube that matches the color of the card. So this card's blue. I get a blue cube. Life is good. Incredible. Fantastic. If I choose to feed the AI, I put 2 blue cubes and a black cube inside the bag. I shake it around. And then if the card tells me to pull cubes from the bag, then I'm going to pull cubes from the bag. And that's going to be like my responses to my AI generated prompt. So it's like, I'm either going to just do the writing myself, or I can do things a bit faster with an AI, but I might get results that aren't exactly what I want to see. Does that kind of make sense? So you either choose to do the top part of the card or the bottom part of the card on your turn. And depending on what you choose, you're going to get different things. But no matter what, the color of the card dictates the kind of cubes you may or may not get. Feel me so far? OK. So collectively, we're trying to complete these stories. And how it's going to work is we're going to go around the table. We're each going to take turns. And we're going to collectively try to get one of us so we can hand in the story. That means that like in front of us, one of us has to have kind of all the things that the story asks for. So in this case, this story about pigeon protests, it needs us to have a headline, so 1 green cube, a bunch of images, so 2 red cubes, a body of text, so a blue cube, and a summary, which needs 2 yellow cubes. We have to get all of that to finish this story. And that all has to be in front of one person. So you'll have cards that are like, share a cube with another player, or like give a cube to another player, or take a cube from another player so that you can get those pieces in front of you. Once we complete a story, we get all the points, and it's incredible. However, if we run out of cards before we complete all of our stories, we fortunately have failed. and the company is not going to work with any of us moving forward. And I'm really sorry that we will all not lose our jobs, but just, not be working with the company in the same capacity, which I guess means lose our jobs. But that's tone is all a different thing. Nevertheless, does that kind of potentially, maybe slightly make sense a little bit? I will walk you through your turns to help you. For visibility purposes, can you see that okay? Actually, how many people are here? Seven? We have to do one more story. I'm sorry, everyone. More labor, nevertheless. What is that? Stop a student. Okay. So to start the game off, our black box always starts with 2 of each color. Also, I didn't mention anything about these black cubes. Black cubes are like, have you ever worked with an AI and like you put a prompt in and you don't really get anything that makes sense to what you wanted at all? Like it's just like a nothing answer. These are just nothing answers. In the competitive version, they're negative points. In our version, they're just really annoying because it means that they don't help us get the thing that we want to get. Does that make sense? Okay. Are we feeling good? I will start just because I know how to play the most, and I will go through my turn. So on my turn, and I'm going to be very prescriptive here, I see that we have this story, that story, and that story. I feel like I'm going to try to get done with the short story first, which wants us to have some blue cubes and some yellow cubes. So I'm going to play 1 card from my hand, that's it, and I'm going to choose if I want to play the top part of the card or the bottom part of the card. Because I want to have some fun, I'm going to play the bottom part of the card. And what's going to happen is I'm going to, because it's a blue card, I'm going to put 2 blue cubes in the bag and 1 black cube, and then I'm going to do what the card tells me, which in this case, I'm going to put another black cube in the bag. I'm going to pull 2 cards, and then I get to draw a card extra this turn. Sorry, pull 2 cubes. So hopefully we get the colors we're looking for. We got 2 blue cubes. Life is good. Life is fantastic. I'm then going to discard the card. This card let me draw 1 more. And then I draw 1 more on top of that. At the end of my turn, you always draw a card. So you should never have less than 3 cards in your hand. If you do, just steal 1 from the deck. No one will stop you. Okay? That's your turn. I have 2 contributing to the pool. So choose a card from your hand. Play it. Are you going to work or feed?
I'm going to work. I'm going to stay away from that AI black box, gray box. So I've disclosed AI use. So I believe I get 1 yellow for it being a yellow card. And then I'm able to give a player 1 of my cubes. I obviously have 1, and I'm going to give it over to Scott. And I don't know how many yellows we need for that short story. 1 yellow, 2 blue.
Finished it right away.
There we go.
Look at that, but I can't do anything until it's my turn to finish it.
So this I discard.
Yeah, we'll just put it right here.
And then I just draw 1.
And draw 1. What an incredible turn.
Okay.
All right, so do I now check which article to start on?
Yeah, you can choose any one. I mean, right now, like we are a team, so there's pretty open-ended work that can be done. Almost all of them, I think, need headlines. So green is great. All of them seem to also need bodies and images. Most articles need a bit of everything. So
Okay, how about we do the Cookie Monster?
let's do it.
Yeah, so global cookie shortage sparks Cookie Monster protest, and it needs 1 green, 1 blue, and 1 yellow. So I will play the yellow card.
Okay. Are you going to work or are you going to feed?
Work.
Okay.
And that means I get a yellow cube.
Yeah, so you get a yellow cube.
Okay.
And then what does the card tell you?
You can draw any card from the discard pile. So, and
So instead of drawing at the end of your turn, you're just going to draw 1 of these 2 instead.
so just choose whatever.
Choose whichever one you want.
Okay.
Fabulous. Okay, that's your turn.
Yeah.
I think you
so
remember how to play.
a little
hopefully.
bit.
A little bit, we'll
yeah.
see.
I'll choose the blue card. Yes. And I choose to work.
Get on it.
Get on it. Yeah.
Okay, so you just get a blue cube.
Just get a
That's it. It's just, that's all you do. You just do the work. Fabulous. Hi,
Hi, I'm a little bit confused, so.
of course.
So
So choose 1 card from your hand and you're going to play it for either the top or the bottom.
so this is the green card.
Yeah.
Choose work.
Mm-hmm.
Get on it.
So it's the same card, but it's green. So you get 1 green cube and then you get to draw a new card, which will slide down the table. Thank you. And incredible turn. 10 out of 10 gameplay. I can.
Okay, I'll choose a blue card because all 3 are blue cards.
Okay.
And
You are fully just writing the story. Yes.
it says add 1 additional black cube to the bag.
Mm. You're doing a feed action, is that correct? You're feeding the bag, you're doing the feed side of the card? Because there's feed and work. Yeah, okay. So we add these to the bag, and we add one more black cube to the bag. I'm sure that won't go wrong.
And it says draw one from the discard pile.
Yes, it says pull two and then draw one. So you get to shake the bag around. Don't look though. You can't look in the bag, it's a black box. You gotta just pull two from it.
One black
Okay.
and one blue.
Okay, that's not bad. And then you can draw one from here. And you also get to draw one from the top of this.
There.
Okay, take that one, and then you get this one. Good thing I'm tall. Okay, Meaghan, round out the round.
All right. I'll use the red card because we don't have a lot of red on the board, and I will work for my 1 cube, please.
There's your 1 cube, and you get to draw a card, and at the end of your turn, you get to draw another card.
Thank you.
A professional. Look, we've gone around the table. Look at that. That's 1 round of the game. We're kind of getting a vibe for how it works. So at the start of my turn, we finished the story, everyone. Congratulations. So we get points. And now we have a choice because the game ends when we run out of cards. Do we want, because this is only worth 2 points, and if we have more points by the end, we get to feel better about ourselves. Do we want to work on another story, or do we want to sit with it? Whenever you finish a story, we can choose to draw a new story. Do we think we can do more work, or do we want to keep it as we're going? We're a team here. Take one more. I appreciate the confidence. We got one more story. So when we finish the story goes into the world, and all the work that we went into it also goes into the AI, because the AI will feed off of what's already out there. So this is our new story. It is, just for reading purposes, it is chocolate declared essential vegetable by local scientists. Our editors really want us to do this one. We need 1 red, 1 blue, 1 yellow to finish that off, okay? Okay, it's my turn. I have not looked at my hand once. I apologize. I've been making sure that we're all doing well. I have no cubes. That's a really useless card. I'm going to feed the AI. I'm the guy on the team that's just going to feed the AI. What could possibly go wrong? So I'm going to put 2 and 1 in the bag, shake it around. I pull 2 cubes from the bag. Beautiful. That's what we wanted. Not at all. And I draw 2 cards. Go ahead.
Okay, so I also have no cubes. I'm gonna feed the AI. This one just says pull 3.
Yeah.
Can-
First, we put 2 in.
Okay,
Then you're going to take 3 out of the bag.
okay.
But no looking. And actually, the last time we played this, we found that if you close your eyes, it increases successful odds. Now, this is, no one's proven it, but see, it works every time. That's what I'm saying.
For people who can't see, I just got 2 yellow and a green. That was a good pull.
It's the dream. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
All right, so I think I want to play disclose AI use. It says also give a player 1 of your cubes.
Yeah.
So
this one wants 2 blue and a yellow. Because you have a yellow cube, right? This one also wants a yellow. This one wants a yellow. So she has 2 yellows. So I don't think you want to give her your yellow. There's an argument to give the yellow one over there because she has a blue cube. If she gets a blue cube on her turn, they can finish it.
oh, okay.
That sounds like friendship
Yeah.
to me.
Do I get a blue cube?
You do though. You
Okay.
can also give that away if you'd rather. You're right.
Oh yeah, who needs a blue cube?
Both of these are helpful. This is
Yeah.
the thing. Because both of these want 2 blue. This one's 2 blue and yellow.
Mhm.
That one's yellow and blue.
I think if you give me that, I think I can complete them.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay. Yes, but on your turn. So I think it's
Yeah.
hiding with the microphone. Look
Okay,
at this.
so-
Yeah, and then it goes away. And then you have
I
a
draw.
And then you draw.
Nice.
Fantastic. Good team.
Okay. I would choose to work for the blue one.
Nice.
Give player 1 of your cubes.
Okay. So you can just give her the blue cube and she can finish the story on her turn.
I guess. Yep. And I draw a
And then you
card.
draw her. Yeah.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
I'll choose the blue card.
We're making sure our blue is all in. This is good.
Get to
Get
board.
Sorry, I can't read it.
What works?
You're just getting just the blue one. You're playing it simple and sorry. Fabulous. Okay. Have you finished the story?
Yeah.
Okay. So those cubes go in the bag. We get 2 more points, which is fantastic. I don't know where I put the other one that we did. Nevertheless, we have two more points. Do we think we can do another story before we run out of cards? I'm getting no's on the head shakes. So we'll leave it as is. Okay, now you actually do your turn.
I'll take the yellow card and work this one. It says this turn you can draw any card from the discard pile.
Okay. So whatever color you're looking for, hopefully you can find it.
I'll take a green
Okay, Megan, you're up.
What do we need?
So these ones all kind of seem like they need a mix of everything. So we're looking to kind of get any array that we can find.
I'll work for a yellow cube.
Okay.
This one. And what did it say?
Oh, this turn you can draw any card from the discard pile.
Oh.
I noticed a lot of you are choosing to work. This perhaps means that I should stop feeding the machine, but yeah, I'm good. No, actually, I have a good card. I have a good card here.
There you go.
I have a good card here. We're good. Okay. On my turn, I'm going to share my sources with everyone. So I'm going to grab a red cube, and then I get to give a red cube to someone else. So you have a red cube, which means I don't think we need to give you a red cube. But this one wants us to have 2 red cubes. And that one doesn't. That one's the hardest one to do, and it wants 2 red, 2 yellow, a green. Yeah, I think I'm going to give you this red one and hope that we can kind of get there.
Okay.
And that's my turn. I'll draw a card.
All right, thank you. So I'm just full of yellow cards. I'm going to work. So no AI for me. I and another player get a yellow, and I'm actually going to shoot this over there because I think then you can complete the one that was one green, 1 blue. Oh, it's red? No.
Oh, I
No,
should have
this
given
one,
you the red one.
No,
Oh,
this one,
no.
it's this one.
Oh, is this
It's
one?
the green, blue, yellow.
Okay, we can do it. But
Oh.
that's on your turn. That's on
Okay,
your
it
turn.
doesn't slide. It doesn't slide. Okay, that's my turn.
That one's sticky for some.
Yeah.
It's hiding on the table.
All right. So it looks like we need green at some point. So
Once we run out of cards.
we'll play the green.
Oh,
And
dude.
it says draw any card from the discard pile.
Yes.
So one of those.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was. Take this from you. We're running low. That's all I'm saying. We're running low, team.
I think we should try to complete the story. I'll go for the red.
Why-
Shared sources.
Oh, because you, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Shared sources. You and another player gain an additional of the red.
Who are you giving the red to?
We really need the red. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, fantastic.
I think this one is 2 red, 1 green.
This one also wants 2 red. Yeah. Okay, we're getting close. We're getting close. Okay, so it's your turn. So you want to finish the story? Fantastic. So throw them in the bag. Which story was this one again? Can we read the title out just so people can, understand what we just published?
Global cookie shortage sparks.
Sparks outrage. Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, so that we'll keep that. I'll take that here so we don't get confused. And you can now play a card in your turn.
Blue. This one's, you may show your hand to everyone to return a black cube to the bag.
Yeah, so if you had a black cube, you can put it back in the bag. You don't, so perhaps that's less helpful for you. I wish I could play it myself.
Just the green one work.
Okay. And it's just the,
Draw 1 card.
okay, there you go. So you get 2 now at the end of your turn. Okay. Fabulous. We're almost there, everyone, hopefully.
Okay, so I'm gonna play the red card,
Yeah,
which lets me put this black box
nice.
back.
Saving us points.
Yeah, and it says pull 2. I know that's not ideal, but.
Oh yeah, so you're putting these in the machine. Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't clock that. You're feeding the machine. So these go in the bag and then you pull 2. Fingers crossed, you're gonna pull 2 black ones. That's the odds. Yeah, that's the odds.
Oh my god,
Did you pull up? Is that?
it's 1 black.
But we have a yellow one in there, which is potentially helpful for writing our stories.
All right.
Go ahead,
I have a lot of green cards, so I'll play this one.
Okay. So what happens? You get a green cube,
Yes.
and then what happens?
And then give a player one of your cubes.
Okay, so where, they both have two. There's potential here.
What are the ones left?
One red, one blue, and one yellow for this one.
One red, one blue. Do you want to,
yellow.
you give the
Yes.
yellow. Okay, look at that. Cooperation.
Awesome.
Fabulous. And you had to run. Is
Yes,
that correct?
I
Yes,
do.
okay, so I'm not gonna let you draw a card then, because
Okay.
that's not
Should
fair.
I
They're
discard
gonna get
these?
discarded though.
Okay.
yeah, Unfortunately.
Thank you, everyone.
And your story
Good luck.
will go away. But thank you for being here, Megan. Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thank
Thank you. We'll applaud you off the table. Did you want to slide over just so you're not reaching as much now? The seat is open. Okay, sorry, it's my turn. What are we trying to do? You have that one done. We have this one that is 1, 2, 1, and that one you're gonna finish.
I got this
So then we just have this one to do. 1 green, 2 red, 1 yellow.
Oh, that one. One green, two.
Well,
red.
she's gonna use them all on that one.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to play this one. I'm gonna get a yellow, and I'm gonna give you my red cube. Go ahead.
So I'm going to dig into the data. I'm going to work. So blue,
Yeah.
and then I finish this whole with 6
Fantastic.
points. Pigeon Parade shuts down Main Street. Published.
Fantastic. Did you want us to draw a new story? We have like
I
6
don't
cards left to
know.
draw.
I don't think.
No. Okay.
Oh, and then I draw 2 cards.
Yes, I give you
Oh,
one here.
1, and then I get another.
Okay, so we just have 1 story left, everyone. Well, assuming that you're going to do that on your turn. You can choose not to publish a story and be a mean teammate. So I think we're missing a few pieces for that one across all of us. Yeah.
Okay. I'll play the red.
Okay.
And it says, yeah, so to return a cube from your board to the bag. So which one we
There's-
don't need?
You don't need the
Probably.
blue one.
Yeah.
Give it a shake, because you're gonna pull 2 out of it.
Oh,
Fingers crossed. You could pull the exact colors we need.
okay, green, green and black.
You know, it's not perfect, but no, because she should, when you feed, it goes in the bag, which actually we should have done. Go ahead.
All right, so we finished this story.
Fabulous.
Chocolate declared essential vegetable by local scientists.
I think it's true. I think every story we published has been truthful.
And this goes to the bag, right?
Yeah. And then you can still play a card on your turn.
So I choose to play the red card. I choose to feed repetitive data. Add 1 additional black cube to the bag.
Uh-huh.
Pull 2.
Okay.
Draw 1 card from the discard pile.
Okay. Pick any card you want. Yeah, repetitive data is a
Which one
strong
do we-
card, but dangerous because you put more. in the bag. You could also look for a card that lets you give cubes to another player to try to have us get what we're looking for here. But while you're looking, would you like to play a card on your turn? So, of course, of course.
Probably your best shot.
Yes, sorry, yes. I was just double checking. Yes,
The yellow one, you and another player gain an additional cube of this card.
nice. So you're gonna get a yellow card. And who are you giving that yellow cube to? When you're a team, it's much less like, well, I don't know, because competitively, you're like, who do I help out? But cooperatively, it's like, well, we're all friends. Yeah, exactly. We're close. Okay. No. Is there any way that you can help the team? No. That's fair.
So I'll play the blue card because I think that's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's you and another player gain an additional cube of this card's color.
Who would you like to give the extra blue cube to? Who are you sharing your sources with?
We don't need it.
We don't really need it. So who do you want to just give research to? You've been given
Thank you.
research. Congratulations. And then you can draw a card at the end of your turn. Did you draw a card at your turn, by the way? No, because
Ooh, that's gonna matter.
it's getting low. It's getting low. What do we need? You have.
We just need one red.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a red? You have a
I'm
red
gonna-
too?
I got this.
Oh, you got this?
I got this.
Okay, then I'm going to, instead of drawing from this pile, I'm going to draw from the discard pile this turn. I'm just going to get a red cube. And I'm going to take my discard back because it hopefully doesn't matter.
All right, so work.
You're
on a
going to
red,
get, yeah.
And then give the player one of my.
Oh. And at the end of your turn, you draw a card.
Yeah.
And then it's your turn. At the end of your turn, you're going to draw a card. So unless you can't finish the story, we're gonna lose.
I'm gonna finish the story.
Unexpected. Look at us.
Read it out, read it out.
All
What
right,
did we publish?
so we published Snowman Convention Protest Summer Heat.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
So then at the end of your turn, you draw a card, and the game would be done for the round because there's no more cards to draw, which means we would calculate our points. So as a team, we have 3 + 2 is 5, + 2 more is 7, + 2 more is 9, + 6, 15. I paused for a second because I definitely could do math really quickly. And then we have how many black cubes out?
1.
1, 2, so 3. So we got 13 points total, which honestly is not bad. Not bad. I think like typically we sit between 10 and 20 points. So I think we did a good job, everyone. Thank you for playing. I hope that this in some capacity was interesting and engaging. So I'll take a brief second to explain some of the ideas behind the game, and then we'll open up the whole room to I'll set up some games on some of the tables there, and if we want to walk around and play either a competitive or cooperative version, people are welcome to do so. So very quickly, kind of explanations. One of the main tensions of the game, right, is do we put cubes in this bag and do we pull from this bag? And you'll notice as you play that the bottom part of the cards or the feed choices are almost always better versions of the top parts of the card. They're going to give you more cubes, give you more cards to draw, or things like that. And so the tension that you have a player has is, do I slowly work and just get the 1 cube per turn kind of effect? Or do I feed this machine and try to play into it? And sometimes you get prompts that get you really great responses where you're happy. And sometimes you get prompts that give you feedback that doesn't really matter for what you're doing or doesn't even make sense at all. Additionally, the tops of these cards, right, like when we were working, all of the work effects are tied to kind of responsible, individualized efforts about working with technology. So being transparent about your practice, disclosing your use of the practice, sharing your sources, checking your sources. These are kind of the steps that we want to remind people to be taking when they're writing or working or producing with ethical AI. And the bottom parts kind of hint at some of the stuff of like stealing ownership, repetitive data, black boxing. There's some hints towards labor that come with kind of the ethics of what happens when we use AI a lot. And it isn't meant to kind of say that this is bad per se, but there are risks involved in doing it. And so when I facilitate this with students, or as we look to facilitate this with students, we sit in these conversations of like, why do you think transparency is helpful here? Or what, like, explain to me the tension. What does the black cube mean? Like, in having students break that down are chances for them to reflect on how their own practices can connect to larger ethical dimensions. I will leave it there for now. If you have questions, obviously, we can talk about them throughout the space. But some people have been sitting in chairs in the audience for much too long to have been sitting in chairs in the audience. And so for space, I know that you guys like to have a little kind of finishing note, and so I will pass it off to you before I pass it to the space to kind of just engage with the games.
Thank you, Scott. And thanks everyone coming in today and joining us online through the Zoom and or YouTube. We're going to be closing up that live stream and the Zoom now, but just a reminder that's available on our YouTube channel if you'd like to revisit it or share it, etc. And thank you all for joining us here for